Once upon a tide, in a village where the sea sang lullabies and the breeze carried secrets, lived a girl named Kina, and she was the kind of girl who talked to waves like they were her cousins. She wasn't a chief. She wasn't a warrior. She was just Kina barefoot, curious, and always daydreamy, hanging under the palm trees. But Kina had a secret. Sometimes, late at night when the village slept and the stars blinked like sleepy eyes, she heard the ocean whispering her name, Kina. Not like a spooky ghost voice, more like the sea trying to tell her a joke. A salty, bubbly, giggly sort of whisper, like a baby whale trying to sing. And while everyone else in the village believed the ocean was just water, the kind you fish in or splash your friends with, Kina knew better. And muttering, "I get hit with a coconut, and all I want is some ice." But no, the sea sends me another whisper. The ocean was alive, very alive. One evening, after a coconut accidentally bonked her on the head, long story, Kina sat by the shoreline. Rubbing her forehead, she paused. The water fizzed like soda, and suddenly a glowing shell floated to her toes. What in the tide-flavored tortilla is this? It was blue and warm, humming like a lullaby, and when she touched it, boom, a swirl of water lifted her into the air, spiraled her hair into a tornado, and splashed her right back into the sand, coughing and soaked. She stared at the shell. Her hair looked like a bird's nest made of legends, and she always smelled like mango jam. Wait, again, cool. I think the ocean just friended me. Something is waking beneath the coral. Something big, something old, and very, very grumpy. Long ago, before your great-grandpa turned our outhouse into a fishing shack, the ocean gave this gift to a girl like you. The shell of whispers. It chooses someone when danger returns to the deep. Now, Kina wasn't one to ignore a magical seashell. She ran to her grandma Nani Kahu, the village storyteller, part-time coconut juggler, and full-time eccentric. Nani Kahu blinked at the glowing shell and whispered, "It's happening again." Kina tilted her head. Grandma's voice dropped. Kina's eyes went full mango-sized. What kind of danger? And of course, the magical shell, which now glowed like a disco light every time they turned in the right direction. Kina set sail on a little canoe named the Fluffy Tuna. Don't ask. She named it when she was 5. Nani's eyes narrowed. Grumpy like Uncle Haku when he skips second. Breakfast? No. Child? Grumpy like Kapor the Tidekeeper. Cool name. Bad vibes. Nani nodded seriously. The shell is calling you, Kina. You must follow the whispers of the tides. Kina blinked. Follow them where? To the place where the waves sleep. The forgotten trench. Kina gulped. Why do cool magical quests always sound like death traps? The next morning, armed with a backpack full of seaweed snacks and 0 actual weapons, Kina dived with the whale. Helped into the forgotten trench, a glowing underwater ravine filled with ancient ruins, and jellyfish in sparkly boaties. With her rode her best friend, Milo the talking seagull, who couldn't actually talk, but made excellent sarcastic noises. Days passed. They met flying jellyfish, sea sloths, and one crab who claimed to be a retired pirate. Then came the storm. Waves rose like angry pancakes. Lightning zigzagged like a toddler with a crayon. The canoe flipped. Kina screamed. Milo squawked. The shell zipped into the sea. And just when all hope fizzled, the whispers weren't warnings, they were cries for help. A giant blue whale burst from beneath, lifting Kina safely onto its back. She'd trapped Kapora to drain his magic and control the ocean's balance. What in the splashy mother of sea cows? The whale didn't answer, but it hummed the same lullaby as the shell. The whispers had found her, and they were leading her to the trench. At the edge of the world, where sunlight turned to shadows and fish swam upside down. At the bottom, she saw it. Kapora, the tidekeeper. He was huge, part sea turtle, part coral giant, with seaweed for beard and barnacles on his nose. Kapora opened one sleepy eye, and boy, was he mad, and boy, he was snoring like a thundercloud with allergies. and the shell returned to Kina's hand, now shaped like a tiny trident. But something was wrong. He wasn't evil. He was chained. Chains made of black coral wrapped around his limbs. Suddenly, boom, a shadowy eel with glowing red eyes slithered out. Vakana, the trench witch. "Let me guess," Kina said, hands on hips. "You're the bad guy." "Yeah. Sorry it took a few jellyfish detours." Vakana sneered. "Cute. You brought snacks for me." Kina held up seaweed chips. "Only if you like teriyaki flavor." The eel lunged. Kina dodged. Milo dive-bombed her eye. The shell flew out of Kina's pocket, spun midair, and let out a sonic ping that shook the entire trench. The chains cracked. With one roar, waves spun in reverse. The trench glowed. Vakana screamed. She pointed it. Light exploded. Vakana vanished in a bubble of glittery doom. Kapora, finally free, looked at Kina and bowed. "You heard me." She grinned. Back home, the sea was calm again. Fish returned. Coral glowed. Even the wind smelled less like angry kelp. Kina was greeted as a hero, but she didn't want statues or songs. She just wanted a nap, and maybe a mango. Grandma hugged her tight. The ocean chose right. And from then on, whenever the waves whispered, kids would listen closely, because thanks to one brave, snack-loving, wave-talking girl, the ocean had its voice again, and it sang stories of courage, of kindness, and of a girl named Kina, who didn't just ride the tides, she listened to them. The end.